Hello, welcome back to the Renaissance IB podcast. I'm your host, Xavier. This is our co-host, Carson Utzler.
Hello.
And I want to introduce our wonderful IB English teacher for Langen Lit, Year 1, Mr. Plummer.
Hello.
I just want to ask you, what is IB English or Langen Lit?
So the IB Langen Lit program is a 2-year program. Your first year will be with me for your junior year, and then your second year will be with Miss Bryant. So throughout that time, we try to study a variety of different text types, different authors from different time periods and different countries of origin. Always kind of connecting back to this idea that the IB is a global program. And so we are trying to expose you guys, especially as students in, let's be honest, rural Idaho. We don't get a huge global perspective, but through our program, the 2-year Langen Lit program, we attempt to expose you to a more global perspective through literature specifically.
That's amazing. I just have a quick question. For IB Langen Lit, you say it's more of a global perspective. Is there any kind of context you could give with that? Maybe like something you relate to in your class?
So for instance, in my class specifically, right, we study Franz Kafka, who is an Austrian author, and then we're going to shift gears into studying Octavia Butler, who is a United States author, and then we're going to shift gears into Philip K. Dick, who, again, another United States author, kind of a similar time period, but we're jumping from a longer time period with Kafka. We study Shakespeare, and then in year 2, which is where you guys are, you're going to study Edgar Allan Poe, you're going to study Margaret Atwood, right? We're kind of all over the globe. Again, trying to give you that global perspective. And again, not just a 20th century perspective. We'll jump back into the 16th century. We'll go 17th century, 18th century, right? We're trying to go all over the place. So that's what I mean when I say different text types, different authors, different time periods, and different countries of origins to, again, really give you that global perspective.
Of course. And I just wanted to ask you, talking about these literary topics, I've heard about the IO in that, first year, the
individual oral, which is an internal assessment. So the IO is an IA in IB. Try to keep up.
Could you give a little bit of depth about what the IO is and kind of how you prepare for it in your class?
So the individual oral assessment, again, your internal assessment for your junior year, the thing that we work toward the whole year, is you analyze a global issue in relation to a literary text that we study in class. So that's going to be either Kafka, Butler, PKD, Tim O'Brien. We do some Vietnamese poets, and then Shakespeare. So you have to select one of those works. And then you have to formulate a global issue and then connect that to a non-literary text. Now, the non-literary text, this is where you guys get to have some fun with it. I've seen music videos. I've seen video games. I've seen propaganda. I've seen Renaissance art. I've seen more modern contemporary art. It kind of spans a lot of different, again, text types for the non-literary. But again, that central focus is always going to be the global issue. So it is a prepared speech, but not a memorized scripted speech, where a student will deliver their analysis of the global issue in relation to the literary text and the non-literary text for 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes is up, it's a 5-minute Q&A with your examiner. Hello, hi, yours truly. And you have to be able to extend your ideas of that global issue as it relates back to your literary and non-literary text. So that 5 minutes is really, it's very impromptu. That's probably the more challenging part for most students, right? You've prepared the whole 10 minutes. The 5 minutes, I'm not trying to stump you or anything. I'm trying to have you extend your ideas. But I do see a lot of students kind of struggle with that because, again, you've prepared for that full 10 minutes. You know where you're going, right? You have your outline. The 5 minutes is where it can get a little bit more tricky.
Okay. And is there some way you guys prepare for that in your junior class?
Yeah, we're doing it now, right? Just mini IOs is what I call them. So I'm not going to ask you to do the full 10 minutes right away, of course, right? That's not going to be until April of your junior year. So we'll slowly work into that, right? a 1-minute recording just about a global issue. Then we'll do a 2-minute recording about the global issue in relation to a text. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, right? We're slowly building toward that final 10-minute IO because, of course, right, that's a challenging prospect to think about delivering a full 10-minute speech, and it's all you, right?
Yeah, definitely. And kind of on this track, there is the paper 1 and paper 2 for IB Lang and Lit.
Yep.
Could you give me maybe some depth for those as well?
So that's year 2. That's your senior year where you guys are right now. I can't speak to it with a ton of depth because I don't specifically teach it. Miss Bryant teaches that. And then that's really, really writing intensive, right? So I think that's the beauty of our 2-year program here is year 1, we're really going to challenge you to articulate your ideas orally, right? It's not a ton of writing. I tell students that all the time. We're still practicing a little bit of writing, but you better get good at articulating your ideas orally, like maybe doing a podcast, right? And so you'll go into your senior year and again, focus more on writing. So paper 1 is going to be a guided textual analysis. You sit down for your IB exam. You open up a exam packet, whatever you want to call it, and it's 2 things you've never seen before. And these are non-literary, okay? So it could be a travel brochure. It could be a piece of propaganda. It could be a political cartoon, a podcast transcript, an infographic, a variety of things that you've never seen before, but you have to use those analysis skills that you've honed over the course of 2 years to examine, okay, what is that author or the producer, the creator of that piece attempting to convey, right? And again, that's just right off here. No ChatGPT, none of that, right? We can't rely on that. We have to rely on these brains of ours, okay, that we've been trying to build over the course of those 2 years. So you'll analyze that one and then do another one, right? So the interesting part about the paper 1 is that you're actually doing 2 different papers of 2 unseen texts within a time frame, right? You're under the time constraints. So it's not like, all right, I got it, cool, I get to go back, to Miss Bryant, talk about it, collaborate with my peers. You have to do it right there. So again, you're really relying on all those skills that we've helped build for you over the course of these 2 years.
Okay.
And real quick,
Yeah.
do you have any notable aspects that you think IB students should be aware of, like in between that transition between the first year and the second year, like of the IB curriculum that you think that they should like note or take note of, or be aware of?
Again, because we spend so much time in year 1 doing oral analysis, right? You get used to that idea of, all right, I'm going to, and then a thing I've seen too is the global issue. That doesn't come up again in year 2, right? It's just one of those things that's pretty much centrally focused in year 1. And so a lot of students that I've seen will start to write about a global issue in their paper 1 or paper 2, and that's not the goal. Okay. So that transition is a little bit tougher, is getting back into that. All right, I'm going to be writing a lot more than I was in my junior year. So that transition is I think particularly, I mean, you guys could speak to it more than I could, but I think that's particularly more difficult, right? Is going, man, I've got an HL essay, a paper 1 and a paper 2 that I'm going to have to write while I'm still reading 8 Edgar Allan Poe stories, 5 Margaret Atwood story, right? Whatever Bryant does assign for
Definitely.
you.
I will definitely say from my experience, the transition from being like focusing on that oral aspect from that like the IO, it was definitely a little bit harder for me to kind of think about having to write my ideas
Absolutely.
out right there instead of being able to prepare for it.
Yep.
And even though I haven't taken it yet, it's definitely going to be a big step, but I'm glad that we get practice in that, like how we are right now, writing our like HL essay outline with some kind of Poe poems or stories.
Absolutely. And you have to get good at that, right? You have to get good at that writing process in, again, a constraint of time. I've only got, 90 minutes or 2 hours and 15 minutes for your paper 1 to write 2 full-blown analysis essays, right? And those things, again, it's high level. We can't forget, this is IB Lang and Lit HL, higher level. It's already IB, which is high level, right? We take it, there's SL, which is standard level. We're taking it to HL, higher level. So there's a super high expectation for you guys as students.
Okay. And do you know maybe a little bit about that paper 2 that you experienced maybe at the end of IB
Yeah.
Lang and Lit?
So paper 2 is going to give you 4 different prompts. You get to choose one. Okay. And within those prompts, you have to choose an author that you have studied over the course of these 2 years. Okay. So again, Kafka, PKD, Poe, Butler, whatever that is, and you have to write a 1,200 to 1,500 word essay analyzing different themes, techniques, right? That's why we talk about body of work for an author. I don't just understand A Hunger Artist, which is one of the short stories that we read for Kafka. I know how Kafka conveys big thematic elements through his specific style. So again, that's an impromptu paper, an hour and 45 minutes to go back into the vaults of our brain and go, man, I've studied so many different authors. And again, it'll give you a prompt. Let's just say, how does an author develop a broader global theme through his or her specific stylistic devices? Man, I could go a lot of different ways there with a lot of different authors. So I have to just narrow in on one and go, man, okay, I really liked what Atwood did with all of these different short stories. Okay, so I'm going to write about how Atwood utilizes a motif of oppression to convey a theme of whatever, right?
Yeah.
I just had to come up with that in my head, and I only have an hour and 45 minutes to do it, right?
Okay,
so I better be pretty good at outlining everything, knowing paragraph structure, knowing I have to consistently go back to authorial choices and consistently go back to my thesis. But I've practiced that so many times at this point, right? It's the culminating assessment for what you guys are doing. So yeah, super challenging. But if you prepare, right, and you're taking the steps necessary, right, you're kind of building that foundation for yourself. When you get into that exam room and the nerves are high, right, and I'm stressing out, I got to get that 5, I got to get that maybe 6, 7, right, on my IB score, and I want to do well, right? But I got to consider the nerves, right? It's very, very nerve-wracking to be in that exam room and having to access all of that information in our brains. And again, a litany of things that we've studied over the course of 2 full years. Not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. And I guess kind of taking it back, since you teach IB Lang and Lit, I want to ask maybe what some of your favorite works or like maybe your favorite short story that you read or taught in your class.
I mean, this was such an exciting thing for me to be able to build out this curriculum because when I was doing my student teaching, I actually read The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, and it just kind of shattered me. I was like, oh my gosh, this resonated with me on such a deep, deep level. And again, because it's IB, there's a prescribed authors list. So if it were up to me, you guys probably know this, but I would teach Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, right? My favorite kind of literary work of all time. Palahniuk, not quite yet IB level author. Kafka is. And so that was really, really cool for me to be able to say, Kafka, this guy that changed really the trajectory of kind of my life and more so through my teaching career. So I just love that, right? Kind of like transformative power of literature. And so Kafka would be kind of probably the number one for me, is being able to teach A Hunger Artist. And I've kind of done a few different short stories. I think I did Bucket Rider with you guys. And then I did A Hunter Gracchus the year prior, which is like very, very kind of psychedelic and strange and metaphysical. It was actually really challenging for a lot of the students, which is why I kind of took it back and did something a little bit easier, more digestible in Bucket Rider. But then I felt like Bucket Rider was maybe not high enough, right? So I got to find that middle ground, which Hunger Artist is. And then Metamorphosis to me probably too big of a work. So still kind of working to find a second short story for Kafka. But yeah, getting to teach Kafka and share it with you guys, that's probably my favorite thing. I mean, PKD too, for sure. I love Philip K. Dick and his work, and the Things They Carried, I think, is just a phenomenally written collection of short stories put together as a novel. But I would keep going back to Kafka as, being able to share that. And again, because it changed me so much as a young person, I hope that it, has some impact on you guys as well.
Yeah, of course. It definitely had an impact on me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But kind of to wrap this all up, I wanted to kind of plug a little bit.
Yeah.
But Mr. Plummer here is a published author.
Wow, look at that. Didn't think I'd be promoting my memoir here. Yeah.
Yeah. Just this year, right?
Yeah. That was just something that I started writing blogs in the summer, and I just kept consistently going back to some childhood experiences that were really traumatic for me, that kind of shaped the man that I am today. Also, thinking about, I just had a son, and I had a pretty challenging relationship with my father. Hello, Kafka, Metamorphosis, right? That's why that resonated so much with me. But I just thought about, I want to rewrite my story for my children. In order to rewrite my story, I needed to write my story first, right? Yeah, those blog posts of childhood experiences really transformed itself into, this memoir where I just kind of tore my heart open and bled out onto the page, which is my favorite kind of literature, right? And Kafka has a quote to that extent, right? If we're not reading literature that smashes us over the head with an axe, then why are we reading, right? Or it's something like that, or it should be an axe to the frozen parts of ourselves. I'm paraphrasing, I don't really know, but that's how I treated that memoir, was like, let's just bleed it all out onto the page. Because again, I just think one day my kids are going to say, hey, Dad, what was your story? And I can say, I here it is. I wrote it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you. And you can order it on Amazon.
Blood in the font, right?
Blood in the Font.
Yes,
Yeah. A Life
like halfway
Forged
through,
through
really good.
Fire and Grace. Yeah. It's heavy. There's a lot of heavy topics for sure, but my life was heavy. Okay. For 20 years, it was about surviving each day. And that's what made me be a high school teacher. Was I needed somebody in my corner. I didn't have that. And so I hope to serve as that for, young people, and to be a source of inspiration for you guys. So
Yeah. And I just want to thank you for being the man in the corner for us.
Absolutely.
In IB.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, this kind of concludes the what is IB Langen Lit. I appreciate you, Mr. Plummer, for coming here.
Absolutely.
And especially Carson for being my co-host today. We'll catch you next time.
And before we end the video, I just want to ask you to check out the link in the description. It'll take you to a questionnaire where you can leave any feedback or questions you may have for the IB program. We're excited to hear what you think and hope to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for watching.